All right. Next game we're going to talk about Florida and Georgia, one of the biggest rivalries in the SEC. They're facing off in Jacksonville, and next year they're going to be in Atlanta, and then they're going to be alternating between Atlanta and Jacksonville, I think, which is a little weird, but just it's the way they're going to do it. Both these teams are having completely different seasons. Florida, of course, started off really rough, losing to South Florida, losing to LSU, losing to Miami, gained a little traction, beating Texas, and then quickly lost that traction and lost to Texas A&M. Fired Billy Napier, promoted Billy Gonzalez, the wide receivers coach, to head coach. So it's been a roller coaster year for the Gators. And it's been a little roller coastery for Georgia just in terms of their games and how they've won games and how they've lost the game. But Georgia's record is still Georgia's record. I think there's either 6-1 or 7-1. Of course, their only loss has been to Alabama, but Georgia has just had a trend of having terrible first halves. They got smacked in the face by Tennessee on the road. Alabama hung 24 on them in the first half. They looked like a terrible team at Auburn. It looked like Auburn was definitely going to win that game until, referee stuff happened. I'm not going to go further into it than that. And Georgia, it just really seems like they've started slow in football games, and yet Kirby Smart, Gunnar Stockton, and Mike Bobo, I guess if you want to give him credit, have brought the Dogs back into this game and sort of snatched a 6-1 record from the jaws of a 3-4 record, if you like that sort of analogy. But this is Florida, Georgia. None of that really matters. None of the teams going into it matters because this is a huge rivalry game. Anything can happen in this game. Even though Georgia has won 7 of the last 8 in this matchup. But Florida has not lost 5 in a row since 1983. If Georgia wins this game, they will have won 5 in a row against the Gators. Florida hasn't won since 2020 with Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney, Dan Mullen. And we'll see what happens in this one. So I look at this game, and I don't think the talent profiles are that vastly different. What I mean by that is Florida and Georgia, in terms of their players, athleticism, their skill levels, it's relatively equal. They're both super highly recruited teams within the SEC and the same region of the country. They're very similar talent-wise, is basically what I'm trying to get at. And I think that they're going to show very equal physicality. Both of these teams are very, very physical on the line of scrimmage. Georgia's offensive line is great. Florida's defensive line is great. That's going to be a really interesting matchup. Florida's got one of the best centers in college football, Jake Slaughter. Big dude, so athletic, knows how to relocate those big defensive tackles. And then Georgia's linebackers are just ferocious with CJ Allen and the gang. So I think if you're a big fan of watching football from the line of scrimmage, this is going to be an awesome game to do that from. My question is, and this is my question is, can Georgia run the ball in this game? And the reason that is my question is because last year, the answer to that question was a resounding no. Georgia couldn't run the ball not only against Florida, but against most SEC teams they played against. And especially against Florida, their lack of a run game led to over-reliance on the passing game, which led to turnovers, which led to Florida really having a chance to win the football game. And is Gunnar Stockton as turnover prone as Carson Beck? No. But Colby Young is injured. Your number one outside X receiver is injured. That is huge. And to say that it's not huge devalues Colby Young. It's sort of disrespectful to him to say that that's not going to make an impact on the game. So I look at that and I just say if Georgia can't run the ball, it's going to be a little spooky. But Georgia's been pretty good on the ground so far this season. I mean, they ran the ball very well against Ole Miss. They did it very well at times against Tennessee, who's got an elite front seven. I think that's going to be the main question going into this football game. Another question for Georgia's offense, does Mike Bobo have a plan? I think everyone is praising Kirby Smart and the Georgia coaching staff for being so good in the second half and making so many adjustments. Well, how come you're not balling out in the first half? Georgia, I know you're good enough to take leads in the first half. I know you have the talent to do so. Why is it taking your coaching staff 30 minutes of football to wake up and start playing good football? I don't understand why. I think it's less of a credit to their second half play and more of a criticism to their first half play. At least that's the way I look at it. So does Mike Bobo have a plan going into this game? He did against Ole Miss. And he had a great quick hitter to start the game to London Humphreys. Had a great little flea flicker play to Colby Young. That was beautiful. Well, Georgia is going to play a lot of Meg. They're going to play a lot of man everywhere the receivers go on the outside, and they're going to bracket zones on the inside. And I think Noah Thomas just has a huge role in this football game. Can Noah Thomas beat man coverage? I think if he can't, Florida can squeeze the field and sort of condense this offense. But if he can, it opens up everything. So look for Noah Thomas to play a big impact in this game. Also, Florida struggles with tackling in the secondary. Zachariah Branch could have a field day against this Florida secondary. I think him and Noah Thomas are the X factors on offense, along with the run game, if that works. So that's going to be really, really exciting to watch. Mike Bobo has a bye week to plan for this game, so that's going to be important. And if I look at Florida's offense, I ask the same question. Can they run the ball? They like to run a lot of duo. They like to run a lot of counter. Can they do that consistently, my bad, against this Georgia front seven? It's going to be difficult. I mean, Auburn ran the ball really well in the first half, had a lot of success. Alabama didn't run the ball well, but they could also run it consistently for 2 to 3 yards to set up the pass game. So I think Jaden Ball, of course, is electric. I think this offensive line from Florida is skilled. It's not elite, but it's skilled. And Jake Slaughter's really, really good, and he commands it. So if they can do that, if they can run the ball well, Georgia's going to have to start playing man coverage. And I am just saying, Florida is probably going to take like 6, 7, 8, 9 shots down the field, one-on-one to Dallas Wilson. Honestly, if you look at how they beat Texas, it was running the ball with Jaden Ball and Dallas Wilson just bullying their corners. And Florida likes to run a lot of man coverage on the outside with no safety help. So I think at least Billy Gonzalez, he is the wide receivers coach, so we trust his wide receivers. I think that we're going to see a lot of downfield one-on-one throws to Dallas Wilson in this football game, maybe even to Verdell Brown. I just think Florida's going to have to lean on the talent on the outside and man coverage to win down the field. And if they win, like 7 of those jump balls against these jokers, I think they have a really, really good chance to win this football game. That definitely move the ball down the field. So who do I think is going to win the game? That's the question. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be close. But honestly, I trust Georgia's offensive line. I trust Georgia's corners. And I trust that DJ Lagway is going to make a mistake late in the game. He throws, like, I just got a football here so I can demonstrate. DJ Lagway, when you're a quarterback, you want to have your hips pointed towards your target like this. But DJ Lagway throws so much just from this position, sidearm like this. I don't understand why. He loses accuracy. And it's cool that he has the arm talent, but you don't have accuracy. Whatever. I think Lagway's going to make a couple mistakes. I think Georgia's going to take advantage, and I've got the Dogs winning their 5th straight over the Gators. Maybe like 30-24 type game. I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be fun to watch. But give me Georgia. Will has got the Georgia Bulldogs as well. So we're both riding the Georgia train. If Georgia wins this game, if they win out, they don't necessarily control their own destiny because A&M and Alabama are ahead of them in the standings right now. But if A&M loses to Texas and Georgia beats Texas and Georgia doesn't lose any other SEC games, Georgia will have the tiebreaker over A&M and make the SEC championship game, which is what I think is going to happen. So, but this is the first step. You have to control what you can control if you're Georgia. You have to win this football game against one of your bitter rivals. I think you can do it. I got the Dogs. Should be a fun one in Jacksonville, though.